Hello again, this is Keith. This is the next day. I let the wort sit in the fermenting refrigerator overnight. So this is the following afternoon. I usually don't let it sit this long. Anyway, if you can see, it's really hard because of this bucket, but there's a distinct line about 1 inch above the bottom of the bucket. It's just slightly above the top of the spigot here. And that is all the settled trub, the solids. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up a sanitized hose onto the spigot. And in my experience, about a cup of that trub is going to run out. And it's going to be real cloudy that I'm going to capture it in here, and then I'm going to put the rest in the bucket. So I'm going to let you see that as we go along. I also like to tilt this bucket forward if I can early in the stages, like right now, because later on that's going to pay off when it gets to the end. Okay, now, here we go. We're fixing to start. I'm going to open up the valve. As you can see, that old trub is really brown and dirty looking. Now I'm getting clear wort. The hose is clear. So look at this. This is the old brownish green trub. We'll set that over here. Now I'm going to start aerating this wort. It's real important that you aerate it. So I'm splashing it. If you look down into here, you can see the bubbles. Splash this beer with wort. I'm going to aerate it. This is one phase. It's going to get real foamy. Okay? So I'm going to fill up most of this bucket. And I've also got a 1 gallon container that I've sanitized with bleach. I'm going to fill that up with some of this wort too. So I'm going to continue doing this till it gets right down to the bottom, and I'm going to stop it. You'll be able to look down in the top of this because this wort's real clear, and you'll be able to see right before the trub starts to go down the hose, and that's when I stop it. I'm going to go ahead and shut the video off now, Elizabeth is, and we'll come back when I've got the buckets and all the good clear wort out of this top bucket now. Talk to you then. Okay, we finished transferring most of the wort down into my bottling bucket. There's Max the brew dog. Say hi, Max. He loves brewing. If you come over here and you look down inside this bucket, you'll see there's this white-looking gray material amount of beer in there also. And it's down up to about a level. If I lay this out flat, it's a little more than about half a gallon. So we lose about half a gallon to do this, but I think it gives you a lot clearer beer. Now I'm going to wash this out, pour the trub down the sink, briefly wash out the bucket, then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to aerate the wort. That's very important. So we'll be back shortly. Okay, now, I didn't show you, but this is almost a complete gallon that I got out of the bucket originally. So I got this gallon, and I've got this right here, which is about 3 3/4 gallons. So I'm going to come out with about 4 3/4 of a gallon of pure wort. But I think it's going to be a lot cleaner wort. Now what you have to do is real important that you aerate the beer. Get lots of oxygen into it because the yeast need that to multiply. One last thing before I start. When you rinse this bucket out, make sure you run some clean water through the spigot. And then let it drain out and then close it. Because that needs to be cleaned out. When we're through fermenting this, we're going to transfer it to a keg. And we'll be going through that spigot. And if you leave some old trub in there, it can get really quite bad and contaminate your beer. So here we go. I'm going to take this, I'm going to pour this from a real high elevation. Do that, hear that. It really is. Come over here and take a picture of that in it slowly. Get a lot of bubbles. A lot of good aeration here. A lot of foam too. So I'm slowly going to pour all of this in there, maximizing the oxidizing that water, getting a lot of oxygen, aerating it actually. Don't worry about the foaming. Always sit and let that go down. Okay. Finished with that. A little over 3 3/4 of a gallon, and here's the last bit of this. So anyway, I'm just going to continue pouring this in here. Then we'll come back here shortly, and I'm going to show you how to pitch the yeast. So we'll be back shortly to show you that. Bye now. Hello, I'm back. What we're going to do now is we're going to start this yeast, and it's best about 15 minutes before you need it to take 4 ounces of warm water, about 95 degrees, 92 degrees. You can run your hand into the water and it should just not feel hardly warm, just the same temperature as your hands, about 96 degrees, 95. And what you're going to do is take 4 ounces in a clean, sterilized container. I've cleaned these with bleach water and rinsed them thoroughly. And what you do, you'll have to get out here and see this kind of close, is you lightly sprinkle them on the surface of the water. And about 15 minutes is probably the maximum. You can do this a little bit before you need to use it. There's one done. I'm going to do one more. What this does is it hydrates the yeast, gets it ready for you to put it in your wort, and gets it started real good. So here I'm doing that again. I'm hydrating the yeast on this one because I'm going to be doing 10 gallons. In about 15 minutes, that'll give me time to go ahead and separate the trub on the second 5-gallon container I've got outside, and after that we'll come back and we'll do the final. We'll pitch the yeast into the wort, we'll put on the airlock, and then we'll be ready to put it in my fermenting fridge. Thank you. Nice to see you back. Always drink some home brew when you're making home brew. Now if you look at this yeast, it's almost completely hydrated. It's been about 15 minutes, and right now what I'm going to do is take a sterilized whisk and I'm going to give this a stir. You got 2 of them here because, like I said, I'm making 10 gallons. Both of these are nice little stir. Even if you let them sit there and hydrate till they're all wet, you still got to give it a stir, and it will not pour good into your mixture over here. Okay, so we've got that done. That's good. Here's our finished. The bubbles have subsided quite a bit on this one that I filmed earlier, and this is the one I did while we were gone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one each of these. They look like chocolate milk, and I'm going to pour it right in the top of there. Same way over here. Okay, get all that in there. On most of my beer, I use Nottingham yeast. Nottingham is the type, it's by Dan Star. I think it's very good, it's real clean, and it ferments out quite a bit. Sterilized spoon. I'm going to stir this just a little bit. Then you get the foam down on this one to mix that yeast in a little bit. We'll stir both of them. Okay, once I've got those both, I'll continue a little bit more. That up. Then I'm going to take the lids. I'm going to put these lids on. Now when you put your lids on, if you have the lids like I do or any other type, make sure you line up the hole of where you're going to put the cork with where the handle comes up. That way it'll clear the height of your airlock. Okay? If you've got this type, make sure you have some kind of container on it, because if you've got it pretty close to the top, sometimes it'll spew the foam up your face. So those are locked down good. Now, take those here. Now I have sanitized these with bleach water. These are my 2 airlocks I'm going to use. What I like to do is put a little bit of vodka in here. Depending on when you do that, vodka makes it sterilized. It's not 100% alcohol. Then I put a little bit of water. Bring it up to about halfway. Put the lid on it. Stick it in the hole. Nice and tight, and voila, it clears it. Do that one more. Also, sometimes when you get a temperature fluctuation and the temperature goes down, it'll suck air back in through these airlocks. And if you're sucking in nice clean water, it's good. And a little extra alcohol never hurts beer. Okay. Now I'm going to return this to my fermenter, I'm going to let it sit in there for about 5 days, and it'll completely stop the fermentation stage. And I don't rack mine to a glass secondary. On this beer, it's a light beer. I let it sit in there for 2 weeks, then I'm going to transfer it over to a keg, and then I'm going to carb it in my refrigerator, my kegerator. So anyway, bye for now. We'll be back in a couple of weeks.